So we've come to the last part of the design, and that's really putting everything together. So we still have this rectangular shaped
with my house or
with
my
your
domain.
beautiful house, and we've made all these patterns into it. Whatever, I'm just putting random stuff.
Okay.
Then you say, okay, we've put this, for example, this is narrow, bigger, and goes narrow again, bigger again, all these
your mystery, your diversity, your storytelling,
your storytelling, and then you just have to put in the plants. So what's going to be...
I love that, you just have to put in the plants. All of this is about the plants, and you say, and you just have to put in the plants.
That's like the last part of it.
Okay.
That's like just building blocks.
Okay.
No, the plants are very important. But we did all those detective
yes,
work.
of course.
And now choosing plants is easier. Of course, it's not that easy, but for example, we're gonna put in some trees, shrubs. This is a water body with a zone full of plants here next to the water. And then how do we choose the trees? For example, this tree is on the north side of this tree. Maybe we're gonna put a more shade tolerant tree here. Maybe not, because we said we were working on this north-south rows. So there, if you have a north-south row, it doesn't matter very much because the sun goes like this. But let's say this is more shade tree, this is a more sun tree, this is water trees that we're gonna put here, for example willows. These are drier trees. We know all this stuff. We've been studying it, we've been playing detective. So when we put in all these things, for example, pH, shade, sun, loam, clay or sand, what do we have beside these things to think about?
You talked about the winds, you talked about if they're rocky areas.
Rocky areas.
I don't know if you have to take animals into consideration.
Yes, for example. So all these things, we know all these things now, and we're going to put this in a website. For example, plans for a future, and just put in all the details you know.
Right.
And then it will generate a list for you. And you know, okay, all these plants can go into my garden. You know how high it will be. For example, this plant is 3 meters high. How big it will be. For example, also 3 meter. You will know if it's sunny or shady, and all these things. And then it's just a matter of
plotting them and figuring out what will, and having a play around to see what best goes. Okay.
Yeah. And then, for example, you will have a huge list of plants and say, okay, this is the plant list for the pond. Pond. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 plants for in the pond. Then you call it numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. And then you just put it in. For example, now we go a little bit technical. Let's say these are all 1 square meter or 3 square feet shapes. So it's all 1 square meter or 3 square feet. And then say, okay, 1 square feet of this water plant, 1 square feet, 1 square meter of this kind of plant, number 2 and number 3. And I now say 1, 2, 3, but it can be 4, 3, 9. 19.
But it's like those paint by number kits. It's exactly like that, isn't it? You've got your colours or you've got your forms there, and that's how you fit it all together.
Exactly.
So you called it a puzzle,
And then you have to know, for example, plant 1 here is 1 square meter or 3 square feet. How many of these plants go? You have to plant in 1 square meter. For example, mostly like a lot of plants you have between 6 and 9 per square meter or per 3 square foot. But for example, sometimes you have like the big tree over here is, for example, let's say a nut tree, a chestnut tree. That's, for example, 100 square meters.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's...
You have a friend there.
We have a friend here.
Yeah.
That's, for example, 10 meters in diameter.
Yes.
So it's 10 times 10, 100. And it's a little bit mathematical.
Yeah,
so
well, no, I think,
think.
Look, I would absolutely add at this juncture that you call in the expert. I mean, you don't want to be, I mean, you have the technology, you have the apps, you have the websites, but you really do need to consult someone, otherwise you...
Not necessarily.
Well,
it depends.
It depends
do you have money or do you have time?
But sometimes it's a useful thing to pay the money for a short amount of time to somebody who knows what they're doing to get you started. I mean, you can decide where your gains are, can you not? And sometimes confidence is all. It's not just so you get confidence from somebody else's expertise.
Exactly.
And it might push you on the path. You might not need them the whole way, but you might need them to give you a kick, I think.
That's true, and that's what we do, of course, with Commensalist. And what we see is sometimes our clients, they have done all this work, but like you say, they need confirmation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you say, you don't need us, it's fine.
Right.
Or then we say,
maybe
you might need us.
Yeah.
But I compare it a lot to having an old-timer car. You can fix it yourself, and it's every Sunday you go in your garage and fix it and tinker with it. It takes ages, of course, or you can bring it to the garage, pay them 2 or 3 full days. It will cost you some money. Then you will know it will be safe to drive.
But then it's your starting point.
Yeah.
As we said at the beginning, it depends why you're doing it, who you are, where you're doing it. So it very much, I think, depends on the individual starting point as to which way you would approach it.
Yeah.
But okay.
So once you have all this, you have to, every square meter needs to be accounted for.
Yeah.
What are you going to do there?
Okay.
Then it's time to make your hands dirty, to order the plants and start planting. And that's the first step of what you see here, these trees. We've planted it here, and now they're already giving some fruit, not much, because this project we planted 2-3 years ago, but it begins, and the only way to harvest is to plant.
Absolutely.
So I would say start planting.
Start planting and be patient, I would imagine, because things are going to bloom and flourish and deliver at all sorts of different times. I think that's the key. You're not going to get something, that's clear to me, finished within 2 years, and there it is, it looks like that. It has its time and it finds its place alongside everything else it's next to.
And you also have to know that we're working with nature here, and nature never is expected. It does what
it does what it likes.
No.
Absolutely.
So you're always surprised. It's never the way you think it will go, but that's nice.
Absolutely.
You're never, the end is never in sight, but it's paradise already in 1 year, in 2 years. It's paradise already. You have to do some tinkering, a little bit, but it's
well on its
journey
way.
That's amazing, and one of the nicest journeys to do, because you're healing the land, you're even healing yourself, because it's therapy to be around plants, and it's zen, and you're feeding yourself. So
you can come and visit me wherever I will be in my Foodforest, wherever that might be, when I'm about 89, and I'm basically just a yogi because I'm so zen from the land.
Exactly.
And I'm looking there in the wilderness, and I've got my cow there. And absolutely.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. I hope I gave you the.
You gave me a very you gave me a very comprehensive journey. I think it's very clear from A to Z, and I even got to get my hands dirty, which is always fantastic. So thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.